Hello, hello. All fine?
All fine when you're in it?
Cool. Oh. So here is the contents of the new two-player starter. Not all the contents, just the miniatures. This is a quick rundown of what you actually get in the box. This is the UCM fleet and the Biofighter fleet, our new faction. Important thing, actually, when you start playing Dropfleet, the two-player will give you enough ships to play some really satisfying games. You can play most of the scenarios in the book with just the starter fleets. There's a lot of replay value there, and there's a lot of ships, frankly, for one two-player. This isn't all of the parts either, because you can build a whole load of different ship classes rather than these ones in particular. These are just a bunch that I've grabbed out of the cabinet. But you can change the weapons, you can change all sorts of things with them, and to fulfill various roles. So the UCM fleet, you get 3 cruisers that you can build in various different configurations, lots of different choices for the cruisers, and then you've got 6 frigates. You used to get 4 in the old two-player, and now you get 6, which is nice. With more options too, there's new ones, like the UCM have a heavy frigate now, that's new. And there's a few other new toys as well for those. They come on 3 sprues, identical sprues that contain 1 cruiser and 2 frigates. Compared to the older sprues, this has been redesigned, and there's much more parts on here. It's really densely squished on, and I've done a lot of work to redesign these to be more efficient in terms of the number of parts, which is great because it speeds up your build process quite a lot. Like, a lot of the old frigates would have, say, 5 components, and now they only have 2, but when you put them next to each other, the detail level is at least equivalent, if not sometimes a bit better in the new ones. But it just speeds up things a lot, and it means you get so much more on one sprue, which is great. It's been a lot of work to get these to work like that, but I'm really proud of these. The new cruisers are slightly longer and slightly sleeker than the old ones. We'll do a close-up in a minute to show you a comparison to see what's changed. But that's the UCM. The Biofighters, of course, are all new, so I'll spend a bit longer talking about these guys because there's more to it than that. They come on 2 different sprues. There's the main sprue that has the 1 cruiser, 2 frigates, have 2 cells. They're new things. I'll talk about those in a minute. And you also have the bits sprue. This one has all the fins and little cylinder details and things. None of these have rules. This is all purely aesthetic. So you can choose wherever you like to put these fins, which changes the look of the ships quite a bit. It doesn't change the rules. It's just purely up to you where you want to put them, where you think they look cool. How many do you want to put on? There's probably more than you really need on here, but you get a whole one of those. Generally, if you play Biofighters, a lot of the ships will come with 1 or half a bit sprue that you can use. So you'll end up with quite a lot of spares, and you can do more or less what you like with these. So that's those. The actual ships themselves, you've got their cruisers. All of their cruisers are very spindly. They have a lot of... This is prime stuff that I really couldn't have done these in resin at all because they're too thin. There's too much like voids, there's holes, there's thin parts with joins, stuff that is beautiful for plastic and is a massive pain in resin, if I'm honest. So it was really nice to have the freedom to design these in plastic, and I could do quite different things, so they look quite distinct from the existing factions, which is nice to see. The cruisers, they all have this mount point in the middle. We'll do a close-up of that in a minute. But the cells that I mentioned, some of these are all studio models, so they've been magnetized, so bits will come off them, maybe, if I'm unlucky. The cell will pull out like that, and then it can go on a flight stand and you deploy it. Cells, most Biofighter ships in the game, very, very pointy. Most of their weapons are front arc or front narrow. They have almost nothing in the side and never anything in the rear. So you need to be quite careful about facing, and they're not as good when they're outnumbered, especially not when they've been flanked. But the cells are generally front, side, rear, 360. So they're a way of doing board coverage, and they do various other things. You get 6 cells in the box. Here, each one of these cruisers has one attached, and there's some loose here on flight stands. Just to give you a quick rundown of what they do, This one is a gun, that's 360. This one's torpedoes, which is nice. This one is orbital bombardment, and it's also limited deployment as well, because the firefighters send down janitor bombs that can then start generating new flash drones on the surface for you, which is kind of cool. And there's also this little thing, which isn't a cell, but it fits in the same slot that the cell fits in, which is a deployable feature. This thing generates more ground forces for you through the game once it's been placed. It also contests drop sites as well, so it's useful for that. Later on in the future, other factions will get deployable features as well, but for now, the firefighters are the first ones to have one that you can actually use in-game, and here it is. You get 3 of these in the box. I've only got 1 of them out here, but you do get 3 of them in total. Then you've got the frigates. Frigates are generally fighting ships. They've got various different weapons, usually 1 weapon per ship. All interchangeable. You've got quite a wide range of choices between different types of frigate. This one is an interesting one in that it shunts cells around, so you can deploy a cell from the front of this frigate, and it does have some less weapons than the other frigates once it's deployed its cells, so it's not just a meat crate, it does have other uses. But that gives you a general idea of the breadth of the miniatures in this box. You get more miniatures in this 2-player than you used to get in the old 2-player. Quite a few more miniatures, because the firefighters have extras anyway, but they get 6 frigates as well, so it's a nice number of miniatures, more options than you used to get on smaller, more efficient sprues with less waste. So yeah, and beautiful detail as usual. Like, I've pushed it as far as it's possible to push it at the moment, I think, and I hope you'll be really pleased with them when you get your hands on them, because I'm super pleased with these. So we'll have a look at a couple more of these up close in a minute. So this is just a quick comparison of the new UCM cruisers versus the old UCM cruisers. Here we've got a standard cruiser and a heavy cruiser, one of the new options with a carrier and guns. But when you compare the two, let's compare these 2 Berlins here. The new one is slightly longer, sleeker. There's some new detailing in various places, and it has less components, so it's quicker to build. The end result is obviously the detail levels are more or less the same, still everything you would expect, but it's just sleeker and cooler. And here is the heavy cruiser comparison if I swap these 2 over. There you go, that's the old one, and this is the new one, just so if you're wondering about that. So here's the firefighter fleet that you get in the 2-player starter, up close. Well, here, this just gives you an idea of the detail up close a little bit more. I'll turn a few of these around for you, but there's all sorts of different versions. You can, as I've said, you can put these panels on in all sorts of different positions and orientations depending on what you feel looks best. That's entirely up to you, because they're just aesthetic, but they're an important part of the look of this faction. There you go, there's a good close-up. I'm just going to take the miniatures away so you can see the sprues up close. And here's the sprues. This is the main sprue that has 1 cruiser, 2 frigates, and 2 cells on it. And also 1 deployable feature as well. That's the other side. Absolutely encrusted with detail. Tons of work gone into these. There's a lot of parts on this sprue. Very, very much squished in. And here's the bit sprue that has all those fins and different details on it that you can choose to use as you like. That's all on there. There you go, firefighter fleet.